Awesome. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Cando's Links to Learning this afternoon. We had a break, but we're back. A little bit of a switch up for the next couple of months anyways. We're going to be here on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on Tuesdays, and then Thursdays is 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So we welcome you. Thanks for joining us. Glad you are here. I am Michelle. I am in Treaty 6 territory, Emiskwichi-Waskahigan, Edmonton. It was a beautiful, well, it is. It's still a beautiful, it feels like a beautiful spring day. The sun is shining. I wore my moccasins today. I was going to say this morning, but today I'm still wearing them. So a really gorgeous day. We just want to give thanks to Creator for the gift of this opportunity to come together as a virtual community and really learn from each other, taking in some of the knowledge of our guest speakers and what they're going to present today. So super excited. So we are going to discuss the requirements for Cando's Technical and Professional Aboriginal Economic Development Certification. This certification recognizes the educational and professional level of experience that all candidates enrolled in the process have. This level of recognition confirms the necessary skills and knowledge to fulfill the requirements of their position more effectively and supports their career paths in the field of Indigenous community, economic development, and related professional areas. So really important. I think that continuing education is really, really important for us. Continuing to learn, to grow, to increase our knowledge and our own toolbox for wherever we work. So I think that this is important topic today. So we have with us today, we have three speakers. We have Jordan, Carmelle, and Anita. So I am so honored to be able to introduce these amazing presenters today. So Jordan is a member of the Denetha First Nations located in Treaty 8 area of Northern Alberta. So Jordan is the Economic Development Manager for his nation. And as a graduate from the University of Lethbridge with a bachelor's degree in Native American Studies, Jordan pursued a career serving communities, families, and youth with a reputable nonprofit Children's Mental Health Center. That's amazing. And under the supervision and mentorship of several distinguished leaders, Jordan gains, I clicked on something that I probably shouldn't have clicked on, but that's okay. So Jordan gained 8 years of experience managing and supervising multidisciplinary teams aimed at providing nationally recognized treatment program across Alberta and the Northwest Territories. An additional 4 years in management and supervising in alternate capacities was also gained in his community. So with community growth and well-being as the focus of his career and understanding of local industry, Jordan accepted the position of Economic Development Manager in the spring of 2018 with aspirations of improving the conditions of all Denetha members. Jordan works with industries, governments to overcome and remove barriers to education and employment while leveraging his nation's relationship and interests to increase economic opportunity while working towards a prosperous and sustainable economy. Like, that's incredible, Jordan. So we're really honored and excited to have you present and to share what you know, what you've learned along the way. We also have Carmelle, who's from Samson Cree Nation of Maskwacis, Alberta. She has a business administration and accounting diploma from NATE, so Northern Alberta Institute of Technology. She was previously employed with Samson Cree Nation for the last 4 years, where she was a dedicated employee in the residential development department as a MHC coordinator. She's very passionate about helping her nation and nation members by providing the best resources for programs available. So for the last 2 years, Carmelle was the special projects coordinator, where she oversaw the regional events before she transferred into the role of certification coordinator here in the West. Carmelle looks forward to having the opportunity to work with many accomplished Indigenous economic development officers and land managers from across Canada. Working in this position, she has gained valuable work experience and enjoys networking with professionals in the field of economic development. So Carmelle's with Cando as well as Anita. So our last presenter is, I'm just gonna have to let her say which nation she's from, but it's a Mi'kmaq nation in New Brunswick. So she's on a different time zone than us. It's, past supper time where she's joining us from. She is a graduate from the University of New Brunswick, where she earned a master in adult education degree, along with a Bachelor of Arts in Education degree. That's amazing. She also holds a diploma in Human Resource Management and recently became certified under the Canadian Career Development Foundation. Anita has extensive experience and skills in economic development, community development, Indigenous education and training, and women's issues. Anita facilitates training and workshops across a range of topics, including career counseling, guiding circles, and community planning. So I just spent about 5 minutes talking about these amazing, remarkable individuals who are here to share what they know, their knowledge, and it sounds like to me, their passion. We are just honored to have you here. In the event that you have any questions along the way, or even comments, feel free to use that chat box. Also, as a presenter, it's always nice to see those reactions. So if there's something that you appreciate what they said, feel free to use those reaction buttons that you see on your screen there. There will be at the end an evaluation link sent to you. We'd love to hear your feedback on today's workshop, today's presentation. So enough of me. I'm just going to hand it over to Jordan. Thank you so much for making time, making space to be here and to present. So off to you, Jordan.
Thank you, Michelle. So I'm not sure how much more to add to what already has been said. I understand that I'm here to speak about kind of my own experiences and my road to getting my TAED certificate as well. And so like maybe just to build upon what Michelle said is that, she touched on my previous experience, and I was in a different world from economic development for 18 years of my career. I was building families and communities, working mostly with high-risk adolescent youth. So I've done that since right out of high school, and did that all the way until I was 36 years old. In that path, I learned a lot of different things that seem to transfer over to this current role that I have as economic development manager. I spent a lot of time, with community and family engagement, community consultation, especially for the nations that were out in the territories where they're very small communities. And so they like to see faces especially when they're sending their youth to us to take care of them. I did a lot of networking at the time because, as Michelle said, it was for nonprofit, so we were always in need of money. And I worked with an array of multidisciplinary teams, meaning that there's a lot of professionals with varying degrees and backgrounds and education and experiences that we had to bring together and learn how to work together in an appropriate way. So I took all that and I applied for my position with my First Nation here. And it was, outside of the political realm of things, but I got in and they accepted me. I don't have a big last name within my nation, but people knew who I was. And what I found when I first got there wasn't a lot of information or programming available prior to my position with the nation there. They spent a lot of time developing the workforce, and that was their focus. And so I was kind of dropped in the position without the background and without much direction going forward. And so I kind of stumbled around for a couple of weeks and months and figured things out. I, asked a lot of questions, and Cando was really the first, the conference I attended with Cando was really the first opportunity I had to kind of open my eyes and understand what the heck I'm supposed to be doing. And so I took that opportunity. I met a lot of people. I attended every class that day, those over those 3 or 4 days that they went on, and then I continued to network outside of that. So I made sure that I reached out to all the people, and I took that as like as a everything for what it's worth. I took in everything they offered, and I did as much as I can in that time, and it really made me understand what it is that I was supposed to be doing. And, our nation's stance on economic development was develop the workforce, but that was kind of it. So um, after that conference, it widened what I was supposed to be doing and focusing on. And I realized that I needed to do something with this workforce now that had all the certificates and training and education, but then there was no jobs for them to go to anymore. And um, so yeah, I went forward. To go back to with the Cando conference, I'd run into Carmelle, and she introduced me to the certificate program. And through kind of some looking back at some of my prior education and experiences, we found out that I wasn't too far off from getting the first certificate, and there was some links to learning that I could attend to round out the rest of my training and learning that I needed to do, as well as attend a couple different institutions that provided some courses that I needed as well. So I found that the certificate process was very easy. You just have to ask and reach out. Um, I I found a number of courses that I could do through the BAMP Center, through U of C, um, and then of course through Cando as well. And unfortunately, because of COVID, there wasn't many opportunities to take a whole lot of conferences in this over the last couple of years, and so I relied heavily on what was available online. And through those courses, I was awarded my certificate. Um, and with that came with a lot more understanding and unfortunately a lot more work moving forward, because then I realized that I had to build a larger program in terms of economic development for our nation. And so um, I think in terms of like my experience specifically, like I said, there wasn't much there for me when I came into the role. So the first thing I started doing was reaching out to all those contacts that I had made, asking questions of like what other First Nations had done to kind of build their own economic development programs and where their focus is at. From there, I learned about a lot of the opportunities for funding, and I started with community consultations, things that I was already like familiar with, getting into our 3 communities to understand what is it that the membership wanted in terms of a strategic direction for my department. So we developed online surveys. We went out into the community. We just hosted drop-in coffee sessions for whomever wanted, and I took a lot of phone calls, and I was always available to community members. And from there, we developed a strategic plan for 5 years with the help of a consultant. It was about a 1-year process, and we had it paid through one of the grants, through the corp grant, I think it was. And from there, really, it gave me direction in terms of what to do with my program altogether. And so I think that was one of the biggest things we had accomplished. It listed out about 11 objectives, and they're fairly big, and they range from taking back our leases for a lot of our the businesses that we own, rather than leasing them up, we put them back under the nation and we run them ourselves, to developing partnerships with industry in the local area to take advantage of a lot of those government programs right now, like the rehabilitation program for the oil field, and all the way to purchasing land and developing from ground up. And so it's a big task. It's supposed to be a 5-year program, but definitely could, if you take your time, it could definitely be 10-year thing. And so we just started. I work closely with our corporation. They handle any for-profit entities that come across the nation's opportunities. And so I work with them because a lot of our our strategic plan that's kind of outlined by what the nation wanted and approved by Chief and Council is kind of related to what the corporation is wanting as well. So by developing that plan, it kind of gives me the go ahead to just move forward with it without having to wait for Chief and Council or a meeting to decide anything, because it's already set out in stone that they've agreed, they signed off on it, they understand what my program's doing now, and all they want now from me is updates essentially. They want to know like and where I'm getting the funding from. And so I think yeah, a typical day for me, or I shouldn't say a day because every day is different, which is the fun part of this job, but I typically I still do the workforce development, but like now it's with the purpose. I see my strategic plan and I look forward ahead of like what is it that we're going to need to develop. For instance, right now there's conversations about the A2A rail that's going to go from Alberta to Alaska, and it's supposed to be coming through within in this region. And so so like what is it that kind of development in industry is going to need from our membership to make sure that that's successful. So that takes a big part of my time and making sure that we're training the staff for the right things, or the members for the right things, not just training for the sake of training. I still do a lot of community consultation. My phone's typically going off even when I'm not working. And you try to balance, which is not always easy, but you take the calls when you can. And networking is always going to be an ongoing thing for me. I need to understand what are the businesses in my area doing, the industries, who's coming in, who's leaving, who wants to do what, and who wants to have partners. We were surrounded by 3 other First Nations, and they're always looking to partner up to do things. So it's very important to reach out to other people to make those connections and keep them, I guess, strong. I typically attend a lot of meetings, like any other apparently band official. There's a lot of meetings involved, a lot of Zoom calls. I'm sure everybody here can attest to the amount of Zoom calls. I'm probably getting tired of being on Zoom rather than face to face, because it's just not the same. But yeah, it's a lot of communication, and it's things that I learned throughout my career that seems to be the most important. So I think like it's one of those things that once you understand what your role is, you kind of see all the crossovers from all the things I've learned to this point. I currently sit on 2 boards, not within the nation. They're kind of outside. I sit on an economic development board, soon to be a board member. Right now I'm just a regular member, and then I sit on the Housing Foundation board that's for our county. And so I kind of fell into that just because of my networking and relationships with the mayor and town council. And so it's kind of getting on all these into these opportunities that kind of will kind of lead to economic prosperity for our members as well, because there's always opportunity in every kind of board or meeting or committee that I sit on. I do a lot of work with our local entrepreneurs. I recognize that they are the backbone of most economies. The nation can't take on all the business in the area. We definitely depend on our entrepreneurs to help out with that. I write proposals, and from that obviously comes project management. So at any given time, I'm usually balancing 2 or 3 projects at the same time. And then when I have time, it's just catching up on all the reporting, because with projects and proposals comes reporting and red tape. Anytime you get money from the government, there's going to be a lot of reporting, and I understand it, but it's just so I mean, like that's my typical day in a job. And like feel free to interrupt and ask questions, because I'm an open book, and it's definitely been a bumpy ride, but it's been a good one for sure.
That was great, Jordan. Like Jordan was one of the first people, well, not one of the first ones I've certified, but it was a pleasure to work with you last fall and get you to your TAED certification. You have a lot of great experience, and just to see how much you've grown from the start of the process to now. Yeah, it's amazing. So I do have a PowerPoint presentation, but if anybody had any questions for Jordan, I recommend using the chat and we'll just answer them along the way. So is it okay for me just to share screen and get started? So as many of you may know, Cando is a national Indigenous organization, and we are involved in community economic development, and we build capacity which strengthens Indigenous economies by providing programs and services to economic development officers. And Anita, if you want to just go ahead and jump in there, and you're on mute.
So the Cando certification at the TAED level, or what is known as the, in its longer version, is the Aboriginal technician, pardon me, the technician Aboriginal economic developer level. So Carmelle and I, we use TAED all the time when we're talking to people, and but basically that's what it stands for. So the Cando certification program is based on an individual showing competency in 11 areas. So there are key areas for that really speak to the work of an Aboriginal Economic Development Officer are listed here, and there is 11. So I'll just go over those real quickly. Aboriginal law and policies, organization and financial management, governance and leadership, economics, sustainable environment and land stewardship, lands and resource management, project management, community planning and development, and community-based economic development and contemporary Aboriginal economic development, and finally, Aboriginal business development and entrepreneurship. So those are the 11 key areas as identified by EDOs in the field, or economic development officers in the field. So a practicing EDO should have capacity in each of these areas. So to become TAED certified, you have to graduate from one of our 7 partnering accredited institution programs. And the other way that you can obtain your TAED is similar to how Jordan explained his certification route, and that included doing a prior learning assessment and assessing any post-secondary transcripts that he currently had, and which would of course involve looking at his work experience and assessing that for relevancy and for a fit to those 11 competencies. So TAED, or the technician level, is valid for 4 years, and it must be renewed thereafter.
So these are the 7 accredited post-secondary partners that we have across Canada. We have the Aboriginal, I'm sorry, is it running fine? Or am I a little, everything's good? Okay. So we have Nicola Valley Institute of Technology, they're in Merritt, BC, Algoma University in Ontario, Aurora College in Northwest Territories, Cape Breton University in Nova Scotia, the University of Lethbridge here in Alberta, and the University College of the North in Manitoba, and the University of Winnipeg, also in Manitoba. And these are just their logos for their institutions. So I just wanted to go back to just a little bit more about TAED. So we really want to focus on how accessible it is to receive your TAED certification. Both Anita and I have our TAED. She also has her PAED. I was recently certified maybe a year or 2 ago.
Mm-hmm.
And Anita did that assessment review. So I went through the prior learning assessment review as well. So I had to submit my post-secondary transcripts and my current resume. So with matchup of my work experience and education, I was able to meet all 11 core competencies. And we have one of the competencies on there that I like to reference is economics. So sometimes it takes more than one class to fill those competencies. Like for instance, for economics, most of you have taken a business course. They offer both micro and macro just to get your diploma. So I needed both of those just to fill the economic competency.
Mhm.
And then, okay, then we have our second designation. It is the Professional Aboriginal Economic Developers level. It's paid. And for this one, it is focused on acknowledging your work experience in Indigenous economic development. So you do have to be actively working for 5 years, already have your TAED certificate, and a combination of attending 2 of the Cando events that we have. So we have our Cando conference, our Cando professional training course, and our Cando accredited course. I don't know, Anita, did you want to speak to your process?
Sure. So I achieved my TAED back in 2000 and I want to say 18. No, 2008, I mean. And so that was a bit of a process for us practicing EDOs in Atlantic Canada. We had undergone the TAED training course by course with a larger group of my peers, and we obtained our TAED. After that, once we demonstrated those 5 years of work in economic development, which most of us already had, we went ahead to get our paid, and we were fortunate to be able to attend Cando conferences every year. They do take place across Canada, and this year we're slated to have our conference in Saskatchewan in October. While at the Cando conferences, you can take a professional development training course there and or a Cando accredited training course. So I was able to earn my paid that way and continue to keep my professional development skills up by taking additional training and going to the Cando conferences. And as Jordan explained earlier, it's a great networking opportunity. It's a great opportunity to see what First Nations across the country are doing. I come from a very small Mi'kmaq community called Metabanagiag, and it's inspiring to see what other communities are doing. A lot of communities in the country are successful because they're located near big centers and they have businesses that cater to the needs of that population outside of their community. But a lot of First Nations like mine are not conveniently located, and we have to find other ways to make our own source revenues. So yeah, the Cando conference is a great opportunity to work on your professional development skills and take conferences to pardon me, take courses to earn your professional development.
So I just wanted to say that when once we do the TAED competency match up with your work experience and your education, if you do not meet all of the qualifications, we do recommend further training. Like Jordan has taken a few of our courses just to meet those competencies. In the last year, we've had venture development, and we had project management back in January. And just last month, we did First Nations business law. And so by taking those courses and completing the 45 hours afterwards, not only do you meet that competency, you also obtain 3 credits. And we work closely with Nickel Valley Institute of Technology. And so you obtain your credits through them. And most of them are transferable to other post-secondary, but we're unable to confirm if the institution that you're attending will recognize those credits, but most do.
Mhm.
And we just wanted to mention that we do offer scholarships to students who are attending post-secondary education. So back in 2020, we partnered with CIBC and Inspired to offer multiple scholarships on the programs that you're in, from anywhere from a diploma program up to a master's program. And then, of course, we have our annual scholarship of $2,000 each for 4 recipients through our NEEP scholarship. And every year we do have our Economic Development Youth Summit, and most of our presentations, we like to just go over the events that we offer. And every year they have to complete a case study. And by completing this case study and attending all the sessions all week long, they were able to obtain course credit from Nickel Valley Institute of Technology. And here is our contact information if you are interested in applying or do have any more questions. And I'll hand it over to you, Anita, if you had anything else that you would like to add.
I think we covered most of it. We encourage people, of course, to seek certification, because certification is important in not only being able to do your work more effectively, but employers recognize the Cando certification as well. I often use this scenario: if 2 people with equal skills and education are applying for a job, and one of them has the Cando certificate, I think that that's going to give that particular candidate a leg up in the hiring process. Of course, it's government funded, so the government recognizes Cando certification as well. And we have a really broad range of people across Canada, east to west to north, who have their Cando certification. As I said earlier, or as Michelle said earlier, I have a master's degree. We have EDOs that have PhDs. We have EDOs that have a college education, EDOs that have a university education. So it really varies as to what an individual brings to the table. Work experience is very important, and as you know, is immeasurable, really, when you're looking at what an individual brings to the job. Experience and know-how and wisdom, all those things that cannot be taught are important to the job. But the academic component is also very important. At one time, Cando had a grandfathering process in place where we recognize the work experience of EDOs who have worked for many years in their community, had an incredible skill set, but were perhaps minimally or not formally educated. And that was the way it was in our communities. People learned as they went, and we recognized their abilities, and we certified those EDOs with, I think it was about 15 to 20 years experience. We grandfathered them into the professional level. That doesn't exist anymore, but it was Cando's way to recognize the skill set and learning of EDOs across the country. We're seeing the educational attainment levels quite high now within our communities, and that's a good thing. So Cando certification is a real asset to you and to your community. And the EDOs that have gone through certification, it kind of speaks, their communities speak for that, or speak through that, because their communities are often thriving and doing well.
I also wanted to mention that when we do offer our regional events and our training opportunities, that whether it be in Alberta or in the Atlantic region, that our instructors that come out to teach those courses, they customize the course to reflect current and relevant events in that region.
Mhm. Yeah. If there's any questions.
Yeah, very informative. I don't know, maybe I'll ask this to Carmelle and Anita, but then Jordan, if you could come in and kind of give the, because you've walked through this, but I guess the question is, what would be the very, very first step? Would it be having a conversation with one of you, or is there a whole different department? Like, what would be the very first step if you're looking to pursue the certification?
I can go from my perspective. Usually people get a hold of me through email or by phone. So they get on the Cando website, they see Anita Boyle's phone number or her email address, and I get a message. And it's usually just expressing an interest in learning more about the Cando certification. They may tell me that they're already working as an EDO, but they're looking for some courses to help them in their work. So we usually begin the process then. I'll often say to them, okay, great. I'm so happy to know you through email. We can begin the process by you sending me, as a first step, your current updated resume. And then I will look at it and I will see your education and training, as well as your transcript, please. If you have any transcripts from post-secondary colleges, universities at any level, send me your transcript, send me your resume, and I will do an assessment of where I see you at in relation to those 11 competency areas. And then I'll take it to the next step once I'm able to assess you. And that's how the relationship begins. We give as much help as we can. We help our students identify courses that might satisfy those competency areas. We link them to training that Cando is putting on. We do everything we can to bring them along that journey. And Carmelle might have a different experience with the way she handles it, but we seem to do well with those that engage with us. We stay by them, and we work together and we get it done.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly how the first steps worked for me too. But over this last year, because of COVID, I've recognized that we're all adapting to this online and virtual world. So through the many events that Cando has been offering, through the Links to Learning webinar series or other information sessions that they're holding, Danielle and Elizabeth are great about having a survey afterwards, and they've also included, if they're interested in having more information on TAED, on PAED, or I will reach out to who's ever attended and say, hey, we are offering TAED certification or a PAED certification. And a lot of people have the misconception that it's we're offering a training program, but it's not. So what we're doing is we're acknowledging your years of work experience and education, and saying that you are meeting this level of excellence in community economic development. And this is how you can further it and be up to date with the most current and relevant information to your position.
Yeah, talk about empowering. I think that that's excellent. Jordan, I'm curious, because you went from, working with community kind of on from what I read anyways, in just with community, really good community engagement with people, and that transition, that jump to an economic development officer. Can you talk a little bit about that? And then what was your initial first step? I think you said you had gone to a conference. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the jump really was more motivated for me in terms of being close to family again, and moving back into my own community. And so at the time I was the agency I worked for was in Calgary, and I transferred to the territories because that was in fact closer than being in Calgary to be able to be closer to family as well. And so that was still a 6-hour commute and just wasn't close enough for me. And an opportunity presented itself, and I talked to my managers at the time, and I talked to some of the leadership here at Deneva, and they encouraged me to apply, and so I did. And within a couple of months, they'd offered me the position, and I moved everything once again, and I set myself up here locally, and it was like I said, it was kind of it was a whole new world to me. Though, like now that I work in it, and I could see a lot of the similarities in the work I had previously done, and now that I do, and how that comes into play a lot. And so, yeah, like I had said earlier, I think one of the biggest things was just recognizing how important communication is, reaching out to people who've been in the positions, and or who are currently in positions. So just not being afraid to ask for help, I guess. And yeah, my experience in terms of TAED was I attended a conference, and I believe Carmelle was sitting at a table, and she had a lot of information there, and I just kind of went up and started talking, and she started explaining about the certification process. And I've always been keen on education and furthering myself. So yeah, I took as much information as I could, and I reached out to her by email eventually, and we got the process started. And she just basically, I sent her my transcripts, and she sent back, the things that I'd be missing in comparison to what courses I had already taken. And we just kind of went from there. And every time something kind of came up that she was aware of, she would send it my way, and she's like, just so you know, we're doing this. And I got to go to Vancouver for a course, so that was that was a fun trip. So aside from all the rain, it was pretty good.
So I believe, Jordan, being like a member of Deneta First Nation, they are actually one of our programs, our partnership programs with our SETI initiative. So I think it was actually Marissa who kind of connected us there at one point. So, and she works with our SETI initiative.
Yeah. So Marissa, I knew Marissa going to the conference. And then you were with her, I think, at the initial table, and then like the signed registration table, I think it was. Yeah. And so, yeah, we're currently working with the town of High Level, which is kind of another part of my job up here. And so that's been an ongoing process for almost 2 years, I believe. Almost 3, I feel like. I think we've got extended because of COVID. So, but yeah, we're just sadly ending that project in 6 weeks. We're in the last 6 weeks of our funding. So
yes, they're graduating this month.
yeah. Yeah.
But once you become part of the Cando family, you always will be.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I was really sad that last year's conference was canceled down in Saskatchewan, because I had a number of friends down in that area that I was hoping to connect with as well. But so this year for sure.
Me too, and I really hope that we get to travel soon and all reconnect in person.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you. So as far as Carmelle and Anita, as far as COVID and this whole pandemic, it turned everything upside down. Has there been like kind of almost a halt in like certification, or is that you just had to pursue other avenues? How is that going? How is the process?
You're muted, Anita.
I'm sorry. For me, COVID has presented some issues for, I think, all people. And, Cando certification. Initially, I saw the process slowing down a bit. People were more concerned with efforts to be well, and rightfully so. Communities were on lockdown, shut down. I was working from home for a long time. In New Brunswick, we don't really have a lot of cases of COVID. So that in itself has helped, but we are also very, very cautious about the way that we manage ourselves with COVID. And I think that's been a huge success. But I think priorities changed a little bit for people. I think people were still trying to figure out how the world of work was going to work. You know, how effective Zoom would be as a platform for meetings and for connecting with people. I think we're all Zoom experts at this point. But with that, of course, there was also that Zoom fatigue that people were talking about, that there were so many Zoom meetings in the course of a day, that people were like much more meetings, so much more information than people were used to processing, I think, in a given day. So I think that candidates in my zones, which is Ontario, Quebec, Atlantic Canada, and Nunavut, I think that they were reprioritizing a bit what they had to put their energy to. And we're starting to see now, as we are, you know, a year into this, I'm starting to see a resurgence of interest again. People are realizing that, you know, we're still okay. It's not great, but this might be our new normal for a while. And people are starting to, you know, shift gears and get back into the mode. And I mean, just 2 weeks ago, I must have replied to 30 requests for information around Cando certification. So that is good. Good to see.
No, I agree. You know, like I said, like everybody's adapting to this new virtual world and everything. And now that everyone's kind of settled in for the long haul, that yeah, they're reprioritizing, and you know, the world isn't going to shut down. We're still going to keep moving, and this, and how we made it accessible, offering it online, and as often as we do, it's really meeting the demands. And the Zoom fatigue is a reality, because sitting there for 6 hours in front of your screen, and you don't get to interact, you don't get that personal touch anymore. So I can't blame people for, you know, having other priorities, but it's still good to see that there is growing interest.
That's great. I appreciate, Anita, especially what you said about, you know, wellness. Like we had to kind of shift our priorities and just look at our own wellness and manage our own mental health. But it's, you know, really good to hear you had 30 inquiries, 30 questions from individuals who are interested in this certification. So, you know, perhaps we're turning that corner. We're getting that second wind, you know, to continue our education and to just put in that investment and that energy into, you know, our own growth in whatever field we're in. So thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. I know we have one person on. If you had any questions, feel free to use the chat box. Feel free to unmute yourself, whatever's comfortable for you. But if you have any questions, know that you are welcome to lend your voice to this conversation.
Hi, I actually work with Cando. I'm just kind of re-entering back into an admin position. I was gone for some time. So this is actually not being with Cando for a few years. I was really happy to join this webinar, because there's a lot of things about certification I had forgotten. So, and on probably about 10 years ago, I used to do some of the trade shows for Cando and bring some certification information to some of the folks that came by our booth. But because I wasn't in certification myself, I found it sometimes hard to answer a lot of the questions. So coming to this again was a good reminder for me to, when I speak about Cando and about their certification process, it ignited again in my mind how good it is actually, and how it's how to now to speak to others about it as part of my role in Cando. So yeah, thanks ladies. That was really, really good. And sorry, and gentlemen.
Well, welcome back to Cando. And I love that mural. I don't know if behind you, I love that. It's
beautiful. Yeah. I know this will be like I'll never change the background for Zoom. This is perfect.
Love it. So thank you. Thank you. So everyone, thank you for joining. Thank you for lending your thoughts, your story, Jordan, your experience, your journey along the way. And Anita and Carmelle, that's your the work that you're doing behind the scenes and just keeping us informed. Thank you so much for lending your time and your voice to this workshop this afternoon. So thank you all for coming. Thanks for being here. May you be safe, may you be well, may you find peace and comfort, and may your moccasins help you to walk with ease for the rest of this day. So be well. We give thanks to Creator for this gift, this opportunity, this moment. Take care, everybody. Thank you. Aye, aye.